We can start.
All right, Jeremy will be here in a minute.
Okay. A minute, like he's rolling down the driveway or?
I said, are you coming? And he said thumbs up.
Yeah,
So
okay.
I
He'll be-
assume that means
all
a
right.
minute.
Shortly.
All right.
Kelly and Desiree, can you hear us? We can't hear you.
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, good. There we are. All right, let's call this meeting to order. It is the Village of Tuxedo Park Planning Board meeting of January 22nd, 2025. I don't have any opening remarks. Do you have anything you need to say?
Excited that we have some applicants.
Yeah, it's
here
like
already.
it's an embarrassment of riches, as they say. Anything you want to put on the record? No. Okay, so let's get started. The first item is Overton Camp Comfort Road, parcel number 101-1-27, formerly subdivision lot number 7, which is the construction of a new house. So I was introduced and I promptly forgot your name, so please state your name for the record and give us the spiel, and then we will ask questions and we'll see where we go.
Put down the big one.
Wait, stand by. One inch of the.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Jeffrey Small. I'm the architect for John Overton. As you mentioned, we're proposing a house on lot 7. Overton subdivision. It's those drawings are gigantic.
Yeah.
And hard to read. So lot 7 is right here.
I may be.
You got it.
Just so I'm clear, when I looked at this is an old image, right? Of the house itself that you're proposing?
That's the.
On lot 7.
Subdivision. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, okay.
So that's.
Okay.
Best dressing fantasy. Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Can't complain. Now you can sit there if you don't, whatever, you don't have to, we can spread out. Or you can sit here if you want. That's the actual plan. That's right, those are the copies of the plans.
Thanks, Sean.
All right. So 7 is the one,
Yes.
The circle is right here.
I
So
have
it's-
more.
right, it's here in yellow.
Yeah.
Okay, so all right, so you're butting up on the parking lot of the school there.
Way up, yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. We have, that the entrance to the,
It comes in off the existing road. It comes off
yes.
up the original
This-
driveway.
yeah,
The
here,
stone pillars are
here's the,
there,
here's the entrance.
Right,
and then the proposed circle is there.
okay.
And yeah.
Okay,
So the design for our proposed house is in the same location as what was shown in the subdivision plan. The only difference is that the house is rotated so that its front door basically faces the approach. The other difference is that the garage is on the basement level, so be down there. As opposed to I think the other plan had it, you know, kind of an addition to the house. Our proposal meets all of the setback criteria and all the bulk criteria. With the exception of we have a wraparound porch. And so we exceed the 25% for porches and terraces. So we'll have to ask you to refer us to the BZA for a variance for that. The site utilities are pretty much the same as on the subdivision plans. We haven't updated the civil engineering drawings yet, because really I just kind of want to nail down the footprint first. And once we kind of find out whether we can do a wraparound porch or not, and I'm sure that the BIR wants to shape the project in some way. So once we nail down the footprint of the house, then we can have the civil engineers kind of update their plans, but the site utilities in principle are pretty much the same.
For the subdivision, were the building envelopes approved or not just the plot subdivisions?
I think these were very kind of, I mean, there are bulk tables for each.
If I could, Jeffrey,
Yeah,
the,
please.
the lot locations all met the zoning code.
Okay.
You had to show at least there was a lot, a spot on the property that you could build and comply with the zoning code, and that's probably the outline that you saw on the original subdivision map. I think it's a 250 foot by 250 foot square. So we have a lot where it could be built without, any zoning, but he still has to come to the planning board for utilities and any earthwork approval. And then the bar, obviously, for house layout and architecture. And the,
And how big is the lot?
The lot is 4.4 acres.
all the lots on the subdivision exceeded 4
I
acres
know.
at the top.
And the house shown on the subdivision plan was intended to be, to prove that you could build a house of the required size with the proper setbacks.
Yeah.
But you're not required to build that house.
Yeah. I was wondering, are we being asked to approve, like what exactly we're being asked to review and approve in this go around versus the last time?
Pardon me for,
Please.
my understanding, and please correct me if this is basically approving the subdivision. And then the next step is to approve a site plan.
Okay.
Right,
Okay.
exactly. So that approval that we did, I may be the only person still on the board. You were, okay. Exactly that. This approved carving up the property into lots. And now each of these lots, when someone wants to build their house, has to go through the process. Just like it was,
Just like new.
just like if someone you wanted to tear down your house and build a new one. I mean,
Okay.
it just,
Got it.
not suggesting you should do that.
So there, I don't know, should I talk about maybe some of the features of the site that were approved at the time? There were conditions attached to the.
I mean, tell us about assume we know nothing about the subdivision. Tell us about the conditions you have to meet, how you're planning to meet them. Tell us a little bit about, the usual spiel you would give.
So that we didn't really agree about those.
So this shaded area here is, is a steep slope area, so we're precluded from building on that area. This kind of cross hatching is a resource protection area, which I understand is the rattlesnake kind of.
There are rattlesnakes, around.
This is kind of preserved for the rattlesnakes. And there are some easements, some utility easements on the site to allow for site utilities to serve both this house and also some properties. So that's mainly that's the high point. I think, I'm kind of mainly focused on the house, but obviously there are some broader issues. There's this turnaround and there's the site utilities. The broader picture of the site utilities have to be dealt with. Obviously, we have to get water and sewer and everything to the house. So
Right, those haven't been run on the site yet, if I understand correctly. So, I mean, that's gonna be part of that's gonna need to be part of, at the end of the day, your submittal, how that's gonna happen. One of the things that we're responsible for approving is the area of disturbance. And obviously trenching is part of the disturbance that you're gonna have to do to construct this. So when we get the final site plan, all of that stuff needs to be included in what you're gonna do. Okay, um, oh, lots. Relax, this may take a little while. Rich, you wanna start?
Yeah, I'll start. Looking at my notes. We are concerned about rattlesnakes and there's supposed to be cameras up. And basically, I don't know exactly how you check whether there's migration of rattlesnakes on that property. But part of it is to, the best you can, eliminate that problem.
Eliminate,
Rattlesnakes,
No, don't,
without killing them.
don't eliminate the rattlesnakes. You can't mess with them.
No, I said, no, but you can transfer them.
There are, yes. So that, I guess that opens up the larger issue of environmental stuff. We have lots of protected or at least listed species. Absolutely go to all the subdivision stuff which talks about it at length. There are definitely rattlesnakes. There's a protected turtle that may or may not be on the property. There are at least 2 species of bats, 1 species of bat that can be protected, and that can become an issue for especially clearing and grading, because there are times that you can't cut down trees. We got bald eagles. I think that's the list. And a lot of this has already been spelled out and worked on very hard in the subdivision plan, but all of those requirements have to be met as part of your submittal package. So we're gonna need an environmental, protection. I'm making up the term, so Kelly, stop me when I say the wrong thing, but we're gonna need a plan that, just like we need a SWIP for this, we need the equivalent for dealing with the species, right? So whether it's cameras or what do you have to do if you find a rattlesnake on the site, you can't just stomp on its head like the old days. So that's gonna have to be part of the package.
I see.
And I think it would be helpful, if maybe they could submit a narrative to you as to how they, are addressing each of the items in the finding statement, like you're talking about with the species, but also each of the conditions from that subdivision resolution. Because they're gonna have to show that they address each one, so I think maybe a narrative form would be helpful for this board, so they could use it as like a checklist almost.
What she said. Thank you.
Are there known dens on the site? That's been
Other known,
known dens on the site?
my understanding was that I guess there was an environmental impact statement done for the subdivision.
Absolutely.
And so it was found that there were some endangered species rattlesnakes, and so, you set aside some protected area, so kind of habitat area.
Yeah, I can't remember if there are dens or if it's, transit ways, or we can get you a copy of the stuff.
But for the cameras, how does that work? Is it for the duration of construction, or is it like forever, or how does that supposed to?
I'm not entirely sure. I'm gonna say it's in the book, but mostly it's an issue of making sure that the construction activity doesn't overly impact the endangered species. So
So it's more than just staying away from the protected areas.
well, you can't be sure that the rattlesnakes are staying in the protected areas, right?
Okay.
So, I mean, they are self-protective. We don't want to deal with that, but, it's an environmentally sensitive site. So there are procedures that have to be followed to minimize the impact of the construction activities, et cetera.
And it's spelled out in.
It is spelled out, and
Some of the pages that I gave you, the approval documents, there is item number 15, endangered species protocol. That spells out some of the requirements as far as the incidental take permit for the rattlesnakes and also hiring a timber rattlesnake monitor if you do come in contact with a rattlesnake. It's the last 2 pages, Jeffrey, on that document, I believe, just part of the construction management plan.
And for the record, all this stuff comes out of the state. We didn't make it up. It's not our fault. And you don't want to mess with rattlesnakes anyway.
Okay.
I have a second question, but
Sure.
Go ahead.
all right. From my notes, it says that each property needs storage tanks, booster pumps, and a flow register on the city line.
This is for,
Every property.
okay. And this is for domestic water?
I think the feeling is that some neighbors feel that the water pressure is gonna be low,
I see.
and so therefore they want you to store the water and then pump it in.
Okay.
Yeah, as part of the subdivision plan, there was a concern about impacting the water pressure for the homes already in the area. So any home that's proposed on these lots has to have a sort of storage tank. It may be specified exactly in the documents, and a booster pump for each house. This way we minimize, if not reduce, the impact that may have been,
And John, I have register on the city line to increase the pressure.
So again,
However,
Yeah.
if my memory serves me correctly, that was supposed to be Overton's, not the responsibility of one owner.
my understanding is that Overton is building this house. So to a certain extent,
Oh,
It-
okay.
it's both.
So,
Okay.
but it would be, I imagine it's just a regular boost, tank and booster pump that would be located in the basement of each of these houses.
yes, the way it was
So-
explained at the time, it was a somewhat standard pump system that would be used in other homes.
Yeah, so I'm imagining that whoever built any of these houses, it would kind of have to be part of the construction cost
Yes.
because it's
Yes.
sort of like after the water meter.
Right.
But John, did we specify the size of storage per square foot of home or something? Cause that
I'd have
could get,
I'd have to look in the
tricky.
documents. We weren't too concerned. I'd have to look in the documents to see if there was a specific size.
Just for my own information, how many square feet?
So the footprint of the building is 3,720 square feet. The floor area,
that includes porches though.
that includes covered.
Yeah.
porches.
So I think it's like 2,500, 2,600 square feet house.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, right. So the total building footprint of the house is got 2,572. The floor area. Yeah. It's here. Well, I'll have to, it's not jumping out at me. I'll have to get back to you Seth, about that, but it's under it's roughly 4,000 square feet.
It says footprint ground floor, 1,500 square feet. Oh, that's required. Never mind, proposed 37. That's including the porches.
It might be on the application, in the permit application, there's a.
Somewhere between 3 and 5.
Yeah.
A little cottage.
The little cottage in Tuxedo Park. The setbacks, do you have the setbacks?
The setbacks are on the sheet, I looked at them, of all the bump table stuff, all the setbacks they meet. The biggest issue is their porches are too big. They're gonna have to go to BZA for that. So. Yes, we'll refer you to the BZA, please.
I had a couple questions. I read on one of these pages that this privacy screening was a requirement of the subdivision. Is that right?
Yes.
So is that prescribed where it needs to be? I imagine it's to screen it from the school, but since the house is rotated, does that change?
Basically,
Like,
So
was this the screening that was
Yes.
required and
it screened it from the school. So I figured the concept is to screen it from the school, so that's what that's intended to do.
okay. Do we specify or is that a bar?
Typically, screening and planting is a bar site plan review. I think the applicant has to comply with the subdivision approval. But I think the bar has more jurisdiction over landscaping than the planning board does.
The other question I
Although
had,
you both have to approve it, so you work together on it.
the other question I had was on the, it's hard for me, and maybe it's here somewhere. It was hard for me to tell. Because it's a drive-in garage with a full height ceiling, but it was hard for me to tell how much excavating you needed to do to get that garage to that height. And just for my own property, I know the bedrock is very close to the ground, the soil
We
here.
are gonna have to dig a test pit to see
Okay.
if, to check the feasibility of it.
Okay.
If it's not feasible, there's enough room to put a garage here. Much of this driveway is, to get the kind of required 10% slope.
Yeah.
There's a fair amount of run here, so there's enough room for enough above ground garage.
If it's more like the original, if you needed to.
Yes. Yeah. I think we preferred the basement level garage just because it lowers the bulk profile of the building.
Yeah. And then, so because I drive up there often, how much, it looks like there was some site works done already. How much has been done from that primary entrance for this lot or not, or really just what you can see from the road and that's it?
I think it's, the only thing that was really done is there's been some clearing sort of in the path of the driveway to basically show people where the site is.
The lot could be up
Yeah.
there.
Shortly after the subdivision approval, Mr. Overton asked if we would allow some tree removal and some brush removal. So anybody who's interested in the properties could at least access them. Some of them had more dense, ground cover than others. So we gave them some permission to do that. That's probably what you saw. I don't think there was any earthwork significance that
No, I
happened.
know.
It was just tree removal
Clean up.
and brush removal,
Yeah.
so people could get to the properties. And have an idea where the house was generally allowed to be built.
Okay. That's the real questions that I initially.
None for me.
Okay. Excellent. I have a couple that I'd like to, so let's start with the driveway. Included in the package was the sort of proposed driveway profile from the subdivision plan. Which certainly shows that it's possible to do a driveway that meets the maximum 10% slope. But as part of your final package, we're gonna need to see an actual study of the actual proposed driveway.
Yeah, the engineers. will-
No, of course,
like
just-
they did, I think they had a section showing
Right, I mean,
driveway.
and from the,
Yes, like great.
yeah, exactly. But, to the actual obviously profile of the driveway that you're building, not to the, you know, the subdivision theoretical. And along with that goes, of course, the access ramp into the basement.
Right.
You know, and there are some pretty respectable retaining walls that are gonna be part of that cut into the basement. And not for nothing, there are gonna be some serious drainage issues, otherwise you're gonna have an indoor swimming pool. So just, those are all things we're gonna be looking to see that you've solved. I mean, obviously, this is the initial schematic set. I don't expect to see that. But along with that also, it looks like from the subdivision plan, there's gonna be some cut and fill to make the driveway work. Obviously, there's gonna be excavation to make the utilities work. We're gonna need to be able to see and approve those, you know, cut, fill, grading. That's all part of our purview that we need to,
Right.
you need to demonstrate that it can be done and meet the rules, and all the other stuff that we're gonna need to have with that. There's, you know, we need to, you're gonna have to cut a couple of trees to make this work. We need to have the clearing and grade, the clearing part of the clearing and grading plan. The village code is a little scattered, so look to the section on clearing and grading, which is separate from zoning, which is separate from a number of other things. So, and it, you know, there needs to be a tree survey and all sorts of things that, yes, we will need to see. Again, with utilities, like you say, you haven't developed that plan yet, but we'll need to see how that works. Utilities, drainage, all of those. Stormwater, the SWIP plan, too many Ps, I can never remember all of them. And environmental plan, all of those pieces need to be presented at some point so that we can review and approve them. And the last thing that we're gonna need to see, I mentioned it before, one of the things that we are required to approve is the limits of disturbance for the site, which is any disturbance. So that's gonna be the driveway, it's going to be the excavations for utilities, it will be obviously the house itself, and leave yourself a little buffer room in case you move something a little bit, so we don't have to reapprove it. Just, again, I'm not listing problems, just want to make sure that these are
Sure.
things that you're
I think
on your radar.
they identified much of that on the subdivision plan, but it, like you said, it needs to be updated based on, you know, reality.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's what I got. The only other thing that I'll say is I think that this is really a pretty house. So I look forward to seeing it move forward. Kelly, did I miss anything?
No, you were very thorough.
Thank you. I don't think we need to take any official action now unless you want an official state.
What's the planned timeline?
There you go.
Like, what is Mr. Overton hoping to achieve?
Well, obviously, he'd like it done as
Right.
as soon as humanly possible. But you know, I can't really say. We, you know, we just
Are
have to go
you,
through
are
the
you
process.
coming, taking feedback, studying all the stuff and like pen to paper tomorrow and getting going and
Yeah.
plan to be your next meeting, or is this something
Well,
that'll?
So our next step is to appear before the VAR at their next meeting in early February. And then also the next BZA meeting, that may take a little while because it takes a little while to, you know, get on their agenda. And once those two meetings are done, I'll have a much better idea of where this project is going.
Yeah.
I'll have a good idea of what the footprint of the building is gonna be. And then I think we'll be able to kind of dig in and do some of these technical things that you guys need. So.
Yeah, you don't want to waste time on
There
it.
is one other issue which I brought to Mr. Small's
Oh, yes,
attention
sorry, I
earlier
forgot.
and discussed with the chairman earlier. There was a construction sequence that was approved as part of this subdivision, and lot 7 was not in the early part of the
Not long
construction
one.
sequence. So, the construction sequence on page 71 of the approval documents says that lots 1 and 2 should be developed first. And then it moves on to
8 and
8
9.
and 9 and I do not know at this point, and I'll speak to Kelly, or the chairman will speak to Kelly to see how this gets changed or if it can be changed.
How do you get to lot 1? Oh, the house is back here. I see.
Yeah,
I
sorry.
sent you that document just a little while ago.
Yes, I just
Uh,
received it. So, I mean, can it be changed? Yes, it can, but I think we need to look into the procedure to do that and what the board's basis was to have it like that. And if there's other reasons, that it was put in that specific order, you know, how that can be addressed going forward. So I think it's gonna have to amend that resolution no matter what to build this one first. But we need to look to see if there's any other issues that need to be addressed at that time.
But what I'd say, and I apologize, you should have your team look at this also, so no matter what you hear from people in the village, it's not our desire or intention to stop things from happening. So uh, it's my feeling, having read this, that this was set up to, I mean, it says it, to minimize construction-related traffic, noise, site disturbance, and inconvenience of neighbors and residences. There was a sequence set up. My guess is the sequence also has something to do with things like what it's gonna take to get the utilities installed and whatnot. So we are looking forward to working with you to get this challenge solved. Let me say that from the beginning, but it's gonna take input from you guys, and we're gonna figure out what it's gonna take to get it done, and we'll meet somewhere. But we're not trying to shut you down.
So was the intent on that, starting with 1 and 2, do you think it was, is it your recollection that it was utility oriented, that because lot 1 is right by the road, maybe that's an easier way of,
I don't recall,
okay.
how this order was set up. Maybe Rich, do you remember?
No, I came into the process halfway through.
Right, and I came in at like 3/4 through. The way it reads, though, it sounds like it may be an issue of, you know, you gotta put these pipes in first anyway, kind of thing. I don't know.
Okay.
And we can try to get back into, and figure it out, but, I mean, my theory is that this is the first lot, right? So the driving principle, which is to minimize impacts on the neighbors, well, there's no impacts yet until you get started. So let's see how we amend this plan, and then we'll figure out what it's gonna take to do that. And
Maybe a question back to you. Is there, is there a strong driving factor why lot 7 is first that we should know?
I mean, I think the biggest attraction to it was that it was maybe the most private, and it was kind of away from everybody, and it was kind of like the least obtrusive, and maybe the prettiest lot.
that would be also the other thing I would say, you being as, you know, for all intents and purposes, right, you are the owner of all the lots at the moment. One of the easiest way to solve this problem would be to build on lot 1 or 2 first.
John,
Well,
you don't
also-
know? You don't know what the reason was?
Well, I think it comes down to the paragraph in the construction sequence. I think Jay alluded to this before. To minimize construction-related noise, traffic and site disturbance, and temporary inconvenience to the neighbors. The construction sequence established 3 distinct stages to achieving this goal.
I mean,
And
without-
for whatever reason, stage 1 is lots 1 and 2. Stage 2 is the extension of water and sewer facilities on Camp Comfort Road to serve lots 8 and 9, and then the subsequent sale and development of lots 8 and 9. And then there's a stage 3, which I believe includes the remainder of the lots, 3, 4, 6, and 7.
Without knowing that, I was surprised that 7 was first, because you have to build this entire road and the utilities to support all these houses just for 1 versus some of the ones on the fringe. But it's not mine. That's just an observation.
So
So I don't think we need any official motion, but from what I'm hearing, and people tell me if I'm wrong, I don't we see any problems moving forward, just challenges that are expected at this stage.
Part of the process, yeah.
Well,
and I don't know if Mr. Overton and the village wants to come to an agreement on changing this first before you proceed to the BZA. Coming to the bar to discuss architecture, might be fine, but getting the variance, we may want to have this straightened out first.
Is that
that
something- is that
was
something-
gonna be my point.
Yeah, sorry.
That'd be done.
My
outside of it?
point is, just from a very selfish point of view, if I went up to you and bought 7 because I saw it, it's for sale. Okay. And then I came in front of the board and they said, no, you gotta wait until 1 and 2 develop first. I'd be a little bit upset.
Oh, right, no, for sure.
Actually, you have to wait until 1 and 2 and 8 and 9 are built, are sold and built.
We'll have to,
Yeah.
we'll have to address that. So either, yeah, obviously, I'm gonna discuss this with Mr. Overton and, either we'll, rethink our approach, or we'll try to work with you to amend the resolution. As far as the BZA goes, I think, the design of the house, the porch sort of is the porch, so,
Well, that's why we agreed to this process.
Yeah.
It's a vacant lot. It has bar jurisdiction. I'm sorry, planning board jurisdiction. And then obviously the bar. So, an opportunity to come to the meeting. I just don't know if you want to go to the BZA before we hammer out the,
Because the BZA won't give a blanket, it'll be for a specific lot.
Right, exactly.
oh yeah, absolutely. And not only that, but there'll be some type of time limit on it also.
Can we, is there a way to sort out the order of construction on the side, or it has to be in a meeting? Where we
I would
vote?
suspect the approval has to be.
The approval has to be in a meeting,
In a meeting.
but we can, I'll get in touch with Kelly and we'll see if we can figure out what it's gonna take to get this done. And, we can certainly distribute that to
Yeah.
the board
It
for.
sounds like it's to visit everybody, so to keep things.
Yes, well, this is kind of a serious bottleneck. Going to the bar is fine, but they can't give you if you're gonna decide that the easiest way to do this is to change lots. You're going back to the bar for that lot too, just like you're coming, so don't get too far ahead.
I don't expect to have bar approval in one shot anyway, so, and maybe the same with the BZA, I don't know, but, the first step will be for me to, talk this over with Mr. Overton and, we'll see how we want to proceed.
The BZA issue is simply the square footage of the patio.
That's the only spot where they're not out of right. As of now.
And as far as, amending the previous resolution, is it customary to do that kind of thing first, maybe in a work session, and then have a public hearing? You-
We'll have to have a work session and figure out how we're gonna change it. I assume that we're gonna need a public hearing because it changes, but I'm looking to see which way Kelly's head is moving.
Well, if we weren't changing the subdivision approval, then I was gonna say no public hearing is required, but if
Right.
we do need to change that, then a public hearing is required under state law. I just need to check your code because sometimes the codes say that as long as it's in substantial conformity, et cetera, then a public hearing is not required. So I'll check on that. But if we weren't changing that, then I'd say no. Now the answer is maybe.
So,
Okay.
yeah. We don't do this all the time, so we're gonna have to figure out what it's gonna take. Okay? Anything else we can answer for you right now?
No, I think, think I've got enough on my plate.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you for coming in and, yeah, watch out for the rattlesnakes. Okay,
These are your-
You can have them.
and I appreciate that you brought a little model.
Maybe more of a BZA thing, but for context.
Yes. All right, so give us a minute, Trevor, while and we will go on. The next one is going to be Lorillard Road.
Everybody?
Evening.
Hello.
Very well, thank you. You can sit up front if you want. We're easy. Yeah, whatever, this is for you. This is, okay, so. Yeah, this is your meeting. All right, so for the record, this is the Lynn property on Lorillard Road. It's parcel 104-1-41. And it actually is it's the undeveloped lot or partially developed lot across the street from the house, which has got the pathway and the lake shore and whatnot. Okay, just so we're official, can you please state your name and address for the record?
Okay. So my name is David Lin, my wife's Kayuma. We're at 21 Lorillard Road, Tuxedo Park, 10987.
Best.
Yeah. Pleasure pronouncing it.
Okay, so, just so my understanding of what's going on here.
Sure.
As everybody knows, back a year ago now, we had a series of storms and there was some significant flooding on that parcel, which, and the winds when we had that, we'll call it a tornado, but I think it's something else. Took down a bunch of trees, the floods cut through the property and messed up the path. And then, you guys started some repairs and there was some misunderstanding about the scope of work, and here we are. Did I get that right?
I think so.
Okay.
Are we approving something? Or what's?
Well, I'm
the
asking
action?
you to review it. It's vacant land, which really falls under your jurisdiction than the bar. The bar did approve a pathway, a walking path from the property's intersection with Lorillard Road to the lake. There certainly was some heavy rains. There was a culvert or a culvert that became overflowed. It did create some ruts and wash out on Mr. Lynn's property. But when I came across it, the repair work was quite extensive and beyond what I felt comfortable approving. And that's what's in the pictures. There are two packets there that show.
Say
some
the
of the work.
pictures, it's hard to follow, so it'd be good to get just like the
Sure.
summary.
Let me do it. Any questions, clarify. So we had a jump in anytime. So I think the approval was done in July 2023.
2023.
Okay, so yeah, my wife's memory is with her, so I would never argue there. So I think the work was done in July, in summer 2023 to July 2024, somewhere there. And okay, so the work was done. There's a photo in the past. It's the side of the thing. This is December. I know we're doing good, and that was according to the approval. The one that looked better than anything.
So this is a completed one.
That's correct, that one. Now you have a color one. So we're very pleased with the work and the stone, all the paths, the shape and all that good stuff. And that was September, and December, I think was 18th, I could be wrong.
December 18.
Was the tornado / flash, blah, blah, blah. So the damage to us is one thing, the damage to the neighborhood is another, because the water is like accumulating quite high. It's like a small lake. I think right across that drainage that was blocked, on the other side of the road, the public road was eroded severely as well. So what happened to us is because the drainage blockage, I wasn't there to watch it. I only saw the aftermath. It was a gush of water coming through. You can see it. And because the size of stone we picked at the time, we followed the process and the stone size. It was too little.
Mhm.
By the way, we were warned by the worker, by Harry, who was our contractor who did the work. He said the stone was too small. You're gonna have a problem, but we just followed the rule anyway. So what happened is that the gushing water come through, so it widened the pass. Basically, the stones were everywhere
Mhm.
and splashed everywhere. And there was also a lot of I want to say was small valleys created because the waters tried to find a path.
Yeah.
So the road was widened because the stone was pushed aside, and the valley was created, particularly on the right hand side, because left hand side was an old river anyway, old drainage. And a lot of trees fall off because there's a lot of disease in the trees at the time, so just fall off. And the time, so that was two problems. That was the road was widened and the stone was pushed away. The regional pass was thinned down. There was no more stone, like a lot of parts, no more stone. And the valley was created along the way, and a lot of tree falls. And Mr. Mullen here, who was my neighbor, was kind enough to be here because when I was shuffled the stone on the day after math, when I came home, he jumped in to shuffle with me. So we could only shuffle so much, and we just give up. We did a middle portion.
You're trying to bring it just
We'll
back.
try to
Yeah.
bring back the stone because it was too wide, right? So then what happened is so the spring came, so the snow softened and that stuff. So the contract came back to take, by the way, Scott, you want to add anything since you're here? I don't want to waste your time.
No, I'm Scott Mullins, Lane Lillard. I live just down the road from David and the property. David's correct. On the day that this happened, I didn't see it either, but I was driving home. I saw David at work on the property. Big giant sluices. It's very accurate, and I think you got pictures of it. We were sent the pictures by John. And just as David said, I jumped in. We tried with shovels and rakes to try and get the gravel back into those sluices that have been cut by the water.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate it. So, and by the way, to the credit of the village, I think, so on the day of 20th, I believe, December, Chris was the other side of my neighbor, Carnegie, and myself wrote a letter to John asking the road to be repaired so that does not become a winter thing because it's going to go even worse. I think within a week, the road was, I think the thing was opened up and the road was repaired, all that good stuff. But the damage was done at the time, so when the spring come around to prevent that the grass came right back on the path, we're trying to repair the road. And so throughout the journey, we're also trying to bring this rock that was on the side back as much as we can. We use a slightly thicker stone because we knew it does not stay, the original one. And we also, so there was a lot of, remember I said the small valleys around the road because the water was trying to rush to find the pass. So we used the pass that carved out to try to lead the water out of the, because whatever that valley was digged by the rain, that was a natural pass to the water, to the lake. I meant. So we didn't quite finish the repair, and John was on our side to try to do his job and ask us to pause. There's still a pile of small stones, still running around, but we just left it where there were. So in summary, it was repair the pass so that it's usable and the grass does not grow back up, and try to narrow the pass by bringing the smaller stone back to the path. Leverage the valley to lead the water naturally forward. So next time you some big gash come, because we're in lower land, you notice it's a hill. So next time a big water come through, we don't have to deal with another repair, so to speak. And we didn't quite finish on the tail end of it because John says, let's just review first and let's do everything else afterwards. So that we left it the way it was. There are a couple pictures in there just for completeness. John had a question for us and we try to remember as much as we can. There was one big tree, multiple big trees that flipped down with the big roots outside. I think one of them is on that big rain, but multiple is on the second rain, which is I think it was May 24th. We went down to take the photo, and you can see the date on the photo says 24th of May. And now obviously John would not know, we live on the property, so we knew those are flipped out. So as part of the repair process, they chopped the tree because it was on the road. On both sides, we have a pass forward, so but it's ugly looking, one root is on this side and big chunks on this side and all that good stuff. I think there was a second tree that John mentioned, there was a three trunk tree, so three trunk tree. Two of the trunk are dead, because there are holes on it. One is live. So while repairing the road, it was right beside the road on the left-hand side if you're going down the lake. So we chopped the two that's dead and kept the one that's live. But when you look at it, you would not know. You would think this guy just chopped the tree for burning wood. It was not true. It was a dead tree.
And actually, one of the trunk already broken. So that's why, and our contract said if you don't do anything, the live one will die also. So
That's as much as I remember. I mean, it's in the process.
Okay. There was some mention in this report of putting in drainage pipes. Did you guys do any?
But there was, so on the side of the valley, the rain digged out, and then there's, on the other side, there was an old riverbed.
Mhm.
So, because the valley stopped at a certain location, it didn't, I don't know if it's because there's a big stone there or it's because the earth is harder, so it does not go forward. It digged out this much, so then it flood over this way, over the road to the old river valley. So the gentleman put a pipe underneath, so it lead the water underneath the path. So instead of flush over, it flush under. So that's actually right at the, remember I told you there's a big root that was flipped up? It's right there. It's right underneath that. So then the water, instead of hitting the valley and then have nowhere to go and start to splash over the land, or flip over the pass on the other side of the river because they try to find the old riverbed. And then wash the road again, it's flooding under, but he did a good job. I'm not a contractor, but it's not visible. It's just underneath the road, so you can lead the water out. I actually did one more thing on this side of where the big root is. There's a small deeper cavity, so the water goes there first and it starts flow out, so it reduced the wash. I had no idea that's how you do things, but later when I look at it, I think he had a purpose so that the water does not gush into the old riverbed. I don't know if it's visualized enough.
Yeah, it helps understand the pictures for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think that part of the issue here, and I'm not trying to be victim blaming or anything like that. I think part of the issue is that you did a bunch of work and John showed up sort of towards the tail end and saw all of this stuff going on and didn't know what was happening. So I'm just going to put in my plug for everybody listening at home. Whenever possible, talk to John first. Right? But we are where we are.
If I can respectfully speak to that point, when Chris Carnegie, myself, and by the way, Scott was there too, reported the issue in the email. John actually came over to see John, if I remember correctly, he came over at time to inspect the whole the block. He saw if you look at the entry to the pass, I mean, when I saw it, it was shocking. It was really bad. It was what happened, I think, from the road to the path, to the road, the elevation is quite big. It's steep. So it dropped so hard and they pushed all the stone on both sides. So I don't want to say who's the victim. I would just say we unfortunately have to redo it one more time. We had no intention to do it one more time. Nobody has free money we enjoy our pass, so we didn't want to do this. We had no choice.
Understood.
we're trying to
John was there.
fix.
John was there. John had a day job, so but
Mhm.
John was there to see enough. I mean, a normal homeowner would not just stay there. Says, "Hold on, it's gone." So what would you do?
Yeah, we're not trying to build a new one, we're just trying to repair.
Recover.
old one.
And I understand, and
And in the bar approval, John, there was nothing about drainage?
No.
the bar approval, I'm sorry, I thought you guys had it already. The bar approval pretty much is, yes, you can build a path, use 3/8 stone.
Oh, that was it.
Say that
And
again.
honestly, David.
You can make the path
That was
and,
probably an oversight.
and use 3/8
Not
stone.
have drainage in it.
It's an interesting question as to why it didn't come to this board also, but again, there's,
Well, there's a little bit of history. The pipe that goes from the east side under the road, which is close to Dr. Rushmore's house years ago. For years, anytime there's a perfect storm, it floods. In fact, there was a house there by the waterfalls that got so damaged by the water, and they were supposed to direct that in a different direction so the water just wouldn't go over the banks and it spills over. Okay. So I'm very sympathetic that I've seen the path. I thought you did a beautiful job, and like that is destroyed. Okay. Now, as a homeowner, I probably would do the same thing. Now, we're in Tuxedo Park, so sometimes you gotta cross your Ts and dot your Is. But as I say, I'm very sympathetic, and I really want to work this out, so to the best of everybody's ability.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I agree with that.
yeah, I mean,
Is there a way we can figure out like a minimally invasive way to permit drainage? Because this is going to be, even if the culvert's operating perfectly, this is gonna be a problem anyway.
well, I mean, I think that the idea of sort of maintaining the channels that the water has already cut. I mean, water is pretty lazy, so
Right.
it will go the easiest direction. I mean, to be honest, the removing the trees, I think I mean, they were dead. Of course, that's repairs, that's emergency repairs. The question of I think that's a non-issue. Repositioning, reconstructing the gravel path, obviously that's repairs to something that should be there. I don't see any issue with that. I will leave it to you to fight with the bar over the size of stone. But I agree with you. I hate 3/8 stone with a passion.
We had no idea.
Yeah, and I wear work boots and my wife is always yelling at me because it's just the right size to get stuck in the calks of your boots. But I digress. The only, to be honest, and the only part that I have a concern with is putting in a pipe. And the reason I have a concern with putting in a pipe, I'm an engineer and I do structure, but I deal with drainage all the time. And the problem with putting in a pipe is if it's too big or it's too small, and too small is the issue, you haven't solved the drainage problem. You've just moved it somewhere else and maybe onto somebody else's property. So if you had, and again, I'm not saying you did anything wrong, but if you had come to us and say, hey, we want to do drainage improvements on our site, we would say, that's lovely. Go get an engineer to tell you what size pipe to put in and where to put it. I haven't seen the site. I mean, I want to get out and have a look and then somebody dumped a bunch of snow on it. So I think that part of it needs to be looked at a little more. But I mean,
Maybe just a dumb question. So if we, for lack of a better term, remove the pipe so the earth will fall and then we stuff it together so there's no pass from this valley on the left-hand side going to the riverbed. Do we need to build another pipe longer? Because this is a pass in the middle, right? And you have the valley stopped here. It's not going forward. So the water spill over because the land is actually funny. The land is coming down this way, but it's tilted this way.
mhm.
So it's going to the riverbed that way. So it's gonna go over the pass. I'm in the wrong direction. It goes.
As you walk down the path, is the water flowing right or
Yeah,
left?
left. It's water.
The go down and the water goes from the right to the left.
Yeah, the left is higher. So the valley stopped here and it's
From the
over
right to
from
the
the
left.
right.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at a lake. So because there's no more pass, it flow over the pass. So because there's a riverbed on this side.
Yep.
So we did was instead of having it flow over the riverbed, create, wash the stone again. We put a pipe underneath, let it flow underneath the pass. That's all we did. We can close it. But that, in a non-engineering mind, a non-contractor mind, we would then have to construct a pipe. I think it's about, I work in meter, I'm Canadian, so
Yeah.
it's I want to say it's like 25 meters away from the lake. It'll be a very long pipe. That's just me thinking, but I could be completely wrong. I'm okay.
I mean,
Yeah, something.
yes, sir.
This is very confusing, riverbeds and whatnot. It's the culvert that you mentioned. That it runs right by the old Dr. Rushmore house. David, the question I would ask you is, have you had any erosion since the village cleared that pipe out? Because the issue was the pipe became lodged with large rocks and logs, and water was not flowing through that pipe under the road. It was washing over the road, which led to the erosion that
Correct.
David is mentioning.
Yeah,
And
after
I
that.
live right there, and it happens often that we get water collecting there, but this was more than collecting water. It was literally a river over the road that was leading to the erosion. So the question I would ask is, if the village keeps that pipe clear and that culvert and the water flows through that riverbed as you're calling it, which is just a stream,
Yeah.
normally, will that solve your problem?
I'll
As opposed to
say-
you having to put in
Sure.
drainage and getting an engineer and piping, if that's clear, which it wasn't on this day,
Sure.
does that solve your?
It's a great question. So I'll say, I don't go there all the time. I go there maybe once, 2 weeks. So we did go there after the repair, when the big rain happens. I only notice when a big rain happens, there's accumulation of the water at the pipe starting point. So because what happened to the pipe on the left-hand side, it's not touching, the pipe does not touch the bottom of the land. So it's actually about like a few inches higher. So you see water staying here. But that's only when a big rain happens. So there's some level of water, but nowhere near the water.
My understanding, talking to DPW, is some of them have been here over 25 years. That pipe has never, that has never really overflowed the road the way it did, over a year ago. So what happened there was really a very odd occurrence. And I think to your point, if the water does go underneath the road, it's channeled in such a way where it doesn't damage David's property. It's when it goes over the road, it finds its path of least resistance, and then it went down most of the path that you had created.
Agreed.
If we're gonna invest energy and resources into investigating anything, I would investigate. That would be my recommendation, to investigate. If that's clear,
Mhm.
do you need drainage on that property that you install?
Right now, it's just white. It's not like a flooding.
not
You see
flooding.
you see the,
It's naturally collected water on our side.
yeah, it's not like you can see the river or the stream. It's not. It's just once the rainy day, it's a little white. I don't think it can even like become the flow at all.
I mean,
Yeah.
again, the only, and I'm not suggesting, I mean, if that pipe doesn't run, I mean, I don't know. To be honest, I'm sorry that we're having to have this meeting, because I think that the repairs are essentially as of right. I mean, put it back together and that's fine. I think I'm concerned about doing too much changing to the natural drainage without doing an engineering study, and I don't want to have to make you guys do an engineering study. Like I said, we're not trying to make people spend money. We're not trying to keep people from doing things. So if we can, I mean, again, I'm thinking out loud. I'm not pontificating. I'm not.
I mean, if what Scott's suggesting is true, that culvert just needs to be clear and that might solve the problem. That's the
Right.
easiest.
Yeah, and like I said, I've never heard of it overflowing. And when I went there, David, honestly, I heard about the backup. So I went immediately to where it wasn't flowing. I did not go down your property. Well, when a few people had contacted me about the water coming over the road. When I went there, I saw the pipe was backed up, reported it to DPW a few times, and then they were a little busy, but they eventually came out and cleared it. But I didn't walk down to your property and I didn't see the full effect of the water.
So Scott and I was there. That's it.
But I think if the water goes through the culvert, it doesn't impact your property. It's only when it crested over the road that it went down your
Yeah,
path.
it's,
So is the question, what do we do about this drain pipe? Is that what we're talking about here?
Well, the question is, the work that he do need some type of permit or approval? And then how do we communicate to either the village board or the DPW to make sure that pipe is clean and does not present a problem, as best we can?
I think Scott just volunteered to check it.
I'm happy to be the warden. You
So-
on there and.
So I think that repairs, and to a certain extent, I leave this to, if the repairs to exactly that, to repair the path
Mhm.
are sort of outside. I don't see any problem with that.
You're never gonna get it exactly the same with 3/8 stone.
No,
No.
it's not, you're not
probably-
gonna,
it's
it's
probably
not gonna
much
bring it
wider,
back to its
yeah.
existing condition, but I think that's okay, that, this is, it's a rustic path.
Yeah.
The part of the problem was, the extent of the work and the size of the equipment that was down the path. I think if the Board of Architecture Review was kind of overseeing this project or looking at this project from the perspective they had when they approved it, it was quite extensive.
That mostly for the trees or what was the equipment?
I think it was a little bit of both.
Yeah.
The drainage
It
and
looks
the
like
pipe.
a lot of,
the trees,
of
we
trees
didn't
falling.
touch any trees.
Okay.
Right, so
Yeah.
they wrote, I mean, I think,
We didn't touch any live tree, and even that tree is still there. We
Okay.
didn't even remove
So many
the
dead
dead
trees.
tree, like
That tree you're
just,
allowed to deal with.
no, but I'm just saying, this looks like a lot of fallen trees, so you need a lot of equipment to take that away.
Mhm.
Especially without ripping up the path, so you need to actually lift it all up.
If I was in your situation, I would wait until spring
Yeah.
when the water is flowing and see where the water goes. Forget about that 1 in a million where it goes over the road. Does it, is there a natural path or does it veer off onto your property? Okay, and then I don't have the answers. I'm not an engineer.
We did one thing you said, we didn't do the other thing you said. We waited till the spring because it has a salt. And then, but we didn't watch any other pattern. We just took the valley is not the right term. You know what I meant?
Yes.
The
The
gushing
Oh,
pass that
yeah.
they did. We just took that. We didn't want to do any more things. It's already
Yeah.
there.
Because it gets expensive. And you put all that money in and it gets washed out.
so,
So we're trying to,
we
come up
actually
with a
really try
solution.
to do the minimum.
Of
just,
course.
Yeah, keep the pipe, because it's a rusting pipe. I don't want to spend too much money on that.
so I guess the other question is, what else do you need to do to
So
complete this?
we need to, so there's still stones. There's 3/7 or 3/4. whatever you- Yeah, I'm like picking one by one. It's like,
No, no,
it was
that's
so
great.
painful. Some of them stuck within mud.
You won't see them anymore because the leaves will be over them.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so if the village have no issue with that, I'm just gonna leave it the way it is, because it was a lot of work to pick it up. So that's what Scott and I was doing, try to pick the stone back to the path. It was so much. And especially at the lower end, like it's because of the elevation, they just washed them. Right, so anyway, so that was the work that left over. We just left it there.
I mean, I think relocating the remaining stone, if you need to, push the path back together, you don't need to go and pick up every stone, it's stone. I don't see any reason why,
Seems like a repair.
that seems like repairs, and I think that
The only question is, do you leave the drain or do you not leave the drain? Because that's a new thing that was never, I guess, approved, right?
that, I mean, I think that goes to Rich's question, is there water flowing through it? I think that,
But John, if we all think that the stone is repair the tree stuff was emergency management.
Mhm.
And the only unapproved thing technically is this pipe. Is that the only thing we need to solve to be compliant and be done with it?
Yes.
And I'll leave to the board to decide. I'll offer one evidence. So remember I said of the pipe coming, by the way, I can fill the pipe, or let the machine come in to take the pipe out. So when remember I said on the right-hand side of the pass, there was a ditch that he created. So the water goes to the ditch first and then overflow into the riverbed, that ditch. And that ditch, when there's rain, it's always full. And my wife actually asked me to dig it out. I'm like, honey, I am not very, very young. And I'm like, so she's saying that they're gonna grow mosquitoes. I'm like, but it is what it is. But that's the only thing I can offer. But I'm happy to take it out and just see what happens.
It's hard being in, why take it out, see what happened, and then let us come back
Can we wait till the spring?
I
to
think
do
we should,
anything
I
with the
think we
pipe?
should wait till the spring and see, once we can see the site, we'll see what to do about the pipe. The rest of it, as far as I'm concerned, finishing fixing the path is okay, but
Can't do anything now.
yeah, no,
That's up to what you feel comfortable with.
that's what I would say. Then we need to have do we need an official statement, a motion?
Something for the record.
Something for the record,
What the
okay.
Timeline is, are you waiting till the spring to see?
So,
what happens, or are you happy with him trying to restore what was there?
I think that then I would move that we approve that the homeowner complete repairs to the path, not make any other changes to the drainage until we have an opportunity to review it in the spring when the water's running,
The pipe.
Second.
the pipe. Second, any further discussion? Did somebody write that down?
That's right, okay.
Okay.
Does that include Scott's volunteering as well?
No, you don't have to do the work yourself.
That was on the record.
You can cause it to happen.
On the third Friday of every month.
All right, but wait, so then I call the question. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? No. One abstention due to absence. So, yeah, I mean, it's gonna be warm next week. You can move stone around if you want, but yes, sort of put it back to the, neaten up the stone and, enjoy your
One
property.
stone at a time.
Yeah.
Over
But the
time.
other thing is, you don't have to pick every stone out of the woods. The woods are full of stone.
It's too hard.
And I will say now, let me take my hat off. I have heard several people talk about the sign that you have in front of
What is it?
the rope with the no trespassing sign. And they point to the little private, the boathouse on the only boathouse on the Weewa around Weewa.
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
And the
Well,
middle.
the middle lake.
Yeah, the one with the swimming hole. At the north end, there's a boathouse, which is private property, and they have a road.
Yeah.
And there's a little sign that, says, private drive, stay out. So what I've heard is people say, maybe we could get a nicer looking sign.
No.
Okay.
Now, I'm gonna also say I am now treading on bar territory. This is not a pronouncement, just taking the opportunity to tell you things people have
I
said.
appreciate that. I mean, that was my fault. I just went to Amazon. I didn't know the size. I just said I bought one and it was, okay, came, I'll just put it on. But I mean, we do anything that, we're all neighbors.
Right.
So tell us what's good about it. I will do whatever. It doesn't really matter. Actually, so a side story, I fashioned that with the guy who did it because I didn't know that. I thought that was that's how you do it here. I mean, we've been here for so long. That's the only second property we ever owned with a house here. We have a house here. And so I saw that and I thought maybe we should do the one, but I didn't know the size. I can do a smaller size so I can make it pink if that's what.
I stay out of that kind of territory, just. Like I said, this isn't a pronouncement or a directive, just want to tell you what I heard. All right, thank you for coming in and good luck. And we'll go from there.
All right, thank you.
All right,
you.
thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Good job.
Hey.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you, Scott.
Volunteered for jobs.
Your reward for being a good neighbor is more work.
I'm a culvert warden. I'm reporting to John all the time. Thank you, guys.
All right. The last, but not the least, the Tuxedo Club, parcel number 107-1-3.2, although I saw some traffic that said that might not be the right number.
3.2 is correct.
3.2 is correct. This is the boathouse for the Tuxedo Club and repairs to the seawall and changes to the dock layout at the same time. And just, so no one would say that I was hiding anything. Let me state for the record that I am a member of the club and I use the boathouse. But I do not see a conflict or how that affects my ability to review this.
I will say the same.
Same.
Okay,
I'm not a member.
okay. I'll bring you in as a guest sometime. So just since we have it on the record, I don't see a conflict. If anybody ever does, they can say something. Please, sir, state your name for the record and tell us what you'd like to do.
Ted Deason, boatmaster for the Tuxedo Club. We're looking to just get approval to move forward with repairing the stone seawall that's existing there now, which has been busting through ice. Most of the damage has come recently. There's a couple of pictures in your packet there in the last couple of years through the heavy rains, and then this summer with the heavy wind that came through and actually physically dislodged the docks from their original footings. So we've temporarily put back Moffett block or big concrete chunks or
Yeah, we're not allowed to call it that anymore.
Moffett, not mafia blocks, Moffett
Can't
blocks.
say that.
To at least get the docks back in their close proximity. But ideally it would be to put the wall back the way it originally was intended. The design that we have, I have the blown up top, you should have it in the thing too.
Yep.
Put the full footing in, poured concrete wall, and then using the existing stone or as much as we can when we demo it to put it back using that existing stone as a fascia stone rather than an integral part of the wall. So the wall itself right now is the stone with concrete put together with it. We would pour a full wall and then face that, any exposed spaces with the existing or like stone and, leave exposed a concrete portion, which when we went to the bar, we talked about that, not leaving it as concrete, but putting cedar facing on that where the docks attach to that wall.
Oh, so the bar already approved this.
We went before the bar, it wasn't really approved, but they had, questions, what are we doing? And, I don't know whether I would have to go back to them for the final on that, but there was,
The reason why they're here is because I have concerns that need to be addressed, and I hope you share my concerns about, preservation of the reservoir. And I think the wall design might be adequate, but we need something to protect it while you're doing excavation essentially on the reservoir. And that's why I asked the planning board to review it.
Where's the technical board?
you're the technical board. So what we've approved in this copy, I think yours might be clear. I think there's a digital one too that I sent over, is a little blurry. But proposed in here would be a barrier of sandbags, not using the traditional little sandbags, but using large sand totes that we would place out into the water to protect the workspace. So excavation wise, there would be a row of that in all the disturbed space. Rather than silt fence. Silt fence is really not going to do anything for us. Time frame wise, now the water and ice is all up against it. when we first started the conversation, we had 8 feet of workspace. That was helpful for us. You know, maybe that time frame still falls into that. The next time it's really low, that's when we try to do that. Obviously, I want to stay in business to keep, you know, people enjoying the boats. And so that's part of our challenge. But as proposed, it would include laying that sand barrier in front of any work, so that it doesn't get
And
disturbed.
so repairing what's there is just, it's been completely ruled out.
They, before my time, they did repair it, spend a lot of money putting that rock back. They just keep popping out. And now the base of it, it's exposed enough where it just keeps some of the wall, like one of the columns is even twisted and turned. There's big cracks in the wall. So it's
Is it
kind of fighting
mostly
losing.
from ice or?
I'm told, and this is the first year that it's actually iced over. You know, the other 2 years are like, what's the problem? There's no ice here. This is the first, and it'll be interesting to see what spring does. But, you know, Peter Van Zandt and the people that have been here a long time say when it's ice, it just pounds that wall. Because all the wind comes westward from the west, and then it just keeps log jamming up against.
I don't
the
know
wall.
exactly what the depth, but the wall that exists there really has no footing below the frost line, so it's subject to moving anytime we have a frost, not even ice on the water.
Oh, I
really.
see.
Yeah. Yeah, there's the picture in there with the erosion, the heavy rain, that contributed to that as it comes through, not on the whole area, but where the columns are. You can see where that has affected that space. Certainly we had to, you know, walk half the driveway back up into that, so try to eliminate some of that, but the proposed is to rebuild that wall using a full footing and then poured concrete with the faced rock instead of just stacking it up with concrete. The alteration to that layout, which really doesn't affect any length of the wall, the disturbed area there, would be to put 4 fingers out rather than the 3 that are there now. So this is the way the boats would lay, using 4 footings. Depending on when these docks actually get rebuilt and replaced, because these are actually in good shape, they would be slightly shorter, taking less torque, so to speak, from waves and wind on that footing. Certainly with the poured concrete, we're gonna have tons more stability there anyway, rather than just the 5-inch that was there before. This is what it used to be, or is now, this year, is with this big T-dock, and doesn't have a lot to do with the structure of the wall, but the way this is here gets a little sketchy when people pull their boat in and, you know, one's parallel parking and the other one's perpendicular in. It's just not a safe and organized way to pull the boats in. So rather than that, match it up against all the other boats where everybody's facing in and, you know, all lined up.
And you have enough space there for 4?
We wouldn't be taking any more length of shore. It would be just putting the 2 in there, and there is enough. The footings would be closer than they are now, but it would lay in there, yeah. And, you know, a couple of the people that, when I have shared this possibility, like it a whole lot better, because you're coming in, you're coming out, you're not, the chance of banging into each other and that kind of thing would a little bit better.
So you're proposing to build an artificial wall out of sand,
Correct. It would,
pumping the water out and then working on the wall itself.
correct.
John, would that satisfy you as far as the
Well, I think
goes?
I think it's also a planning board issue. We need to see an engineered plan. We'd like to have some assurances that the water is gonna be protected. That's why it's before the planning board. I'm not saying it can't be done, but we need more than just a cutout for the wall diagram. I'd like to see some type of construction or deconstruction sequence.
Do we have the ability, this board, to actually approve it, or is there some kind of state requirements because it's touching the water.
How'd you ask that question? I got an answer. Oh, because I do this, or I used to do this a lot. Okay. There. No, take your time. You're getting it here.
Disappeared my pen somewhere.
All right. And this I already sort of knew, but it was just backed up. We just had a presentation as part of the village's capital planning committee. One of the big projects was the replacement water main across the lake. Okay, so this was reinforced, and everybody can read this from our village engineer's report, but here's the short answer. Tuxedo Lake is under control of the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation because it's waters of the state of New York. As a footnote, the DEC has just expanded their jurisdiction over waterfront and lakefront property. So it's not just things that have previously been mapped as wetlands. If it looks like a wetland, they're claiming jurisdiction. That's being sorted out now, but they probably also have jurisdiction because it's a reservoir. I think DEC has control over reservoirs as well. So they got it from two different ends. The Army Corps of Engineers has some jurisdiction because Tuxedo Lake via the stream down to pond number 3, via the stream down to the Weewa, via Warwick Brook is a direct tributary to the Ramapo, which eventually, if you follow it down, wends its way down to New York Harbor, not through the Hudson, but around the back into the Arthur Kill. And so is a direct tributary to navigable waters of the United States. So Army Corps has jurisdiction for environmental. They may not care, but they have jurisdiction. There is also probably Orange County jurisdiction because it's a reservoir. And then there's us. And so to do this project, all of the environmental permitting regulations for all of those agencies. Now, the good news is DEC and Army Corps is a joint application. It's repairs, so Army Corps may be covered by one of the nationwide permits for repairs, but you still need to notify them. I say all this because this is something your engineer knows, or if they don't, they need to get with one of the companies who does this kind of work. Because all of those permits need to be either acquired or demonstrated that they're not needed.
Mhm.
You know, as
Right, so Gdansky, Paul reached out after the conversation that we had with the bar, and DEC was kind of on the fence. Because we're labeling it as a repair reconstruction, they're like, you're good, we don't need anything. However, they're like, if you deem more than that, then they would need a whole site plan, and it goes back to survey, and then it's kind of like, do we even want to do anything in the first place? And so
understood.
that's where I said, you know what? Let's not do any more with having those conversations with them until we determine, like, what do you really want? Do you want to go the gamut with all of them, or use their languages as if it's a repair, then they're
So
okay with the
there is
repair.
precedent for this. I mean, the Village Boat Club did this not that long ago.
The Village Boat Club.
Time by
Did docks.
they did a seawall. They put in a very substantial seawall, and I think it was maybe, I don't know. You must have been involved to some
I remember modifications, but we're going back
10 years.
at least, if not more.
There's certainly, this project is, I would say, anyway, it's obvious, it's repairs of the wall. Relocation of the docks doesn't make it into any thing other than that. It's certainly a project that meets um, it's a water related use. It's an existing facility. All of there's no reason why it couldn't be permitted. And I'm fine if the DEC says, knock yourself out, it's repairs. I agree that this is repairs. But that needs to be fully documented. It can't just be, the engineer said, I called some guy, he said it was okay.
Yeah.
Dotting i's and crossing t's, right? So there needs to be a statement from DEC that says, we have no objection, it's repairs. Something from Army Corps that says, well, either we have no objection, it's, or we're saying it's repairs and therefore it's nationwide 3, and you submit your notification letter that it's gonna happen. And they either say, great, go ahead, or they say nothing for 30 days and you get to assume they are okay with it.
Right.
Or whatever the time period is now. It's been a long time since I put in one of those letters. But that's certainly something that needs to get taken care of. We need, this idea of building a dike of sandbags sounds like a great idea, but we need to see more than just the schematic plan. We need the plan that shows the site plan that shows what the work is going to be and the limit of disturbances, and the erosion control plan and protection of waters on a formal plan signed by an engineer that we can look at and say, yes, this makes sense and it's been approved. And if DEC says, well, let us see what you're going to do, we can say, here's the plan. And more importantly, the contractor has the plan and John has the plan. So when he wanders down and says, what's this? It's supposed to look like that. All of that needs to be done. This is a major project in the reservoir, so it all needs to be formally put together. One other minor point I saw when I was reading the code, talking about approvals, in section 65-2.e and 65-7, any reconfiguration of docks by the club and any construction of or repair of a bulkhead on the lake need to be approved by the Board of Trustees.
This has been brought to the attention of the board, but we sent it to the BAR first about the aesthetics. But ultimately, you're
I'm not trying to put up roadblocks. I'm just trying to make sure everybody knows what needs to happen. So
I have a question though. If this group determines that this is repair and not a new alteration, do we then need to approve all of those plans, or are those plans that John needs to be and the trustees need to be satisfied with?
I will not approve it without planning board.
Okay.
yeah, I mean, that basically it goes the other way. As building official, John has certain jurisdiction and also has the jurisdiction to say, I can't approve this without review by the boards.
And it sounds like the board of trustees needs to approve that extra dock.
I mean, from the sound of it, if you, I'm not suggesting that you did anything wrong, but when you took the dock and put it down at the other end of the lake for the regatta, according to the strict letter of the code, you should have had that approved by the Board of Trustees before you did it. I'm not saying you didn't.
Well, and I'm here 3 years, right? So when I came, that was already in progress. So my understanding is that was an allowable thing because it was not a permanent dock. We were adding to, it was, so when I came on, it's like, hey, that's what we do. So I was like, okay, that's what we do, is we continue
And
to do.
I'm
but-
fine with that.
Yeah.
I'm not busting your shoes. But just my point is, it's any reconfiguration of the docks by anybody. The docks have to be approved by the Board of Trustees for a private person. But
Right.
specifically, if the Village Boat Club or the Tuxedo Club want to change their docks, it needs approval by the Board of Trustees.
So my understanding, and this kind of is becoming a joint project, probably should keep it a little bit separated in that these other docks here also, need repair, so they're gonna be repaired in kind. Same configuration, no change, should be no approvals then, right? Cause they were just fixing them, putting new wood on them. Over here, when I'm adding the fourth footing in, that is a change in configuration rather than that T style to four parallels. That we could go to the board for, or I go ahead and pour it in three and leave it same, I mean.
That's my understanding. Yes, that's my understanding. And again, I'm not.
Again, if we're going to the trustees, right?
Yes.
So if we're going to the trustees to talk about the whole project anyway. Yeah, we go ahead and make the necessary improvements or desired improvements in that time, rather than just going with the same old, same old.
Right.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, what I'm thinking is for moving ahead and the DEC's conversation about being repair, the big concern right now, or at least the more details that you would need, would be how the exact berm goes in or coffer. The dam and lake protection goes in, a little more detail on that and how that's going to protect the lake at a minimum. The
Yes.
challenge would be that if the DEC says, hey, it's not a repair and we're doing something bigger, then we're talking full survey and full
Yes.
assessments of everything.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's
Not where I want to be, but I mean, certainly.
that application process is equivalent to doing a short form EAF. And it always has the possibility if you put that into the DEC and they come back and say, we want an environmental impact statement. I don't think they will. I think that but we don't get to tell them which way they're gonna go with it. But we need to see the same plans that we would need to see for any project. You heard what we were talking about before. We need a site plan that shows what you're gonna do. And it needs to be, I mean, this is a great conceptual plan to start talking about the job. But this isn't something that we can approve. We need an engineered plan that shows the shoreline and shows where the things are gonna go and limits of disturbance and all of those things. Again,
So this was their first go at that,
yeah,
right? Saying this is where the wall's going, the clarity of where the sand burnt, you can see it here a little bit, it fades out, but it's a little bit more clarity on where the sand goes for that.
but we also need this stuff, we need
Yeah.
it needs to be an official engineering submittal, basically. Again, we're not trying to throw up roadblocks. This is just what we need for any project.
It's all good. It's snow and ice out there now, so all I have is time.
Right.
When this does get approved, how long will this work take, you think?
For us, a lot, the work itself could be done in a few weeks. I mean, Curtis, we got the bid on, and he's got the manpower to be able to bang it out pretty quick. It's all about weather and time of year,
So I
right?
assume you're trying
So
to do this for the spring.
I don't think we have the time to do that now, just because water levels are high.
Yeah.
On the lake. So either we drop them down and pray for a drought in May, not gonna happen. And then once the boats and everything are in, I don't want to touch it.
No, I
I don't want
guess it's-
disturbance to our own stuff. So
This is gonna happen in the
November.
fall. There's gonna
November, when the docks come back out,
Yeah.
would
waters.
realistically be as soon as we would be able to attack it.
I have some other concerns
Okay.
more from an engineering standpoint with this, but I've been talking a lot. Does anybody have any? My wife tells me I talk too much. Okay, here's the first thing. I got a plan. All right. And this is, I mean, the wall looks good and I'm assuming the engineering is right. And this looks exactly like the kind of retaining wall I would design for this. I do this
We gotta
work.
change.
Right, of course. But I see a water level line and I understand this is somatic and we're gonna go with 42 inches, which is 3'6" below grade. Okay. Grade is basically being shown as lake bottom here.
Mhm.
Okay, so I don't know what the water depth is here right now, but I do know that the way the Tuxedo Lake Dam is configured, there is no low-level water outlet or if there is one, it doesn't work. They put one in 100 and something years ago, but that pipe don't open. And my understanding is that the most water level reduction that we could do by pulling out stop logs is about 18 inches, maybe 2 feet.
Mhm.
This close to the water, whatever the water level is here is the water level inside this dirt,
Correct.
which means that even with, sandbags may keep it more or less dry, but if you're gonna dig down 3.5 feet, you're gonna be working in water. Which has some environmental concerns, because you can't just pump it into the lake or pump it onto the road and let it run down into the lake, right? So if you're gonna pump it dry to work it, we're gonna need a plan that shows how you're gonna. The water is clean, but all the stuff in the water isn't. So how you're gonna make sure that you're not introducing silt and stuff into the lake. More importantly, I'm not completely clear on how that's actually workable, because that is the gravel and sand and silt. So, it's like digging a hole in the beach when it's that wet. The hole gets very wide very quickly. So I'm not saying, I just raised that as a concern because the time to think about it is before you're saying, what am I gonna do with the hole?
Yeah.
So that's something I think that your engineers need to consider. Working, this kind of waterfront work is a specialty. It's not just doing a retaining wall with water next to it.
Yeah.
So that was my,
So one of the things in this conversation, this is water level at, call it high tide, right? So where it is now. When we had the low levels this summer and 2 summers ago, there was 8 feet of soil in front of, so going this way in front.
It's still gonna be wet when this.
but that's the thing.
But it was 24,
It starts
22
to
inches
dry.
down, so that helps us, right? Because then it's 22 inches below flood.
Yes.
Right, so we're holding back that much less, and that much less is pressing into it. The other thing that and this is conversation, the other thing that we thought is to build behind the wall. Leave the wall, build behind it, and use that as some protection as well.
That might work. I mean,
Not as a full thing, but
Behind what
Behind
wall?
the-
behind the existing wall. Instead of demoing it and then building the footing right in the same space.
The land
Go up.
side of it.
The existing wall isn't that deep. You're gonna get water underneath it
Once you start getting into the
once you start.
I mean,
24 to 42 inches.
I will tell you, I've done a lot of things. I was the head of waterfront construction at McLaren Engineering for a few years. And looking at this project, I'm wondering where the sheet pile is for the temporary cutoff wall. So
That hole will be 10 feet wide. but-
yeah, I mean, well, yes, I mean, so if we were gonna be doing this work, I would be looking at, we would have driven sheet pile down, to rock or however far to do a cutoff wall so that you could put a pump on the inside and pump the water out. And I'm not saying that's required. I'm just saying that this seems very aspirational. And I'm not sure that maybe I'm wrong. Maybe somebody's figured out they got a system, but I think it needs to that's something that really needs to be thought through before you start construction.
We don't want to whoops.
Yeah, and I think it's definitely worth a 5-minute conversation with the people who did it down at the Village Boat Club. And I think it looks.
Yeah, I don't know what they did, so. but-
Talk to Mike Santiano.
Mike Santana would be the guy to talk to.
I can put it.
We could
Can you
talk.
forward that contact?
Yeah.
That's all, just
Yeah.
I think it was the Matthews who actually did the work.
who, sorry?
The
Christian?
Matthews, Christian Matthews.
Yeah, those guys are,
Yeah, I think he did the work.
so
Yeah.
again, I just, you know,
Okay.
that's,
Right, I'll go back to to Curdy and the engineer and get some better plans put together. We'll have another conversation with the DEC. To,
I mean, we're
see
gonna,
if they're gonna be satisfied with a repair and.
yeah,
what you guys
and
want.
then, I mean, they've got then usually what you asking for is a letter of no objection, basically. It's what they used to call it.
Well, I think we would have to, if I could just jump in
And,
for a second.
I'm
They-
sorry,
I said, if I could just jump in for 1 second, if they're gonna
yes,
submit, more engineered site plan, things like that. If they could also submit an EAF, because the DEC would be, an involved agency, likely, unless they say that they don't object, but they may just wait until they get that, and then, as you know, they usually respond with like a 5-page letter if there's any impacts. It would have to go to the Army Corps Board of Trustees too.
I mean, waterfront work is typically the joint DEC Army Corps waterfront permit, which is effectively an EAF.
Mm-hmm.
So,
But for your purposes, and if you're approving basically a site plan for this, because they are moving the docks, moving the T to an additional one to put it further on the seawall, that would require a site plan from you guys, site plan approval. And,
and we need an EAF.
yeah, and you need to complete seeker.
Yes, okay, so we'll need that too.
EAF stands for.
Sorry, environmental assessment form. And get your engineer to fill it out. You don't wanna have to do that. And what I'm gonna say, if, I'm not knocking, I don't know this guy from Adam's Cat, but this kind of environmental permitting is a specialty.
Mhm.
So if they're,
He worked on the original boathouse reconstruction.
okay,
So he was, familiar with the
Okay.
boathouse and what went down when they rebuilt the boathouse portion of that. So
okay, so I mean, he may know how to do it and what he's doing. If not, get him to get a sub or get an environmental consultant to work with you, because it goes faster that way.
yeah. All right. Yeah, no, and I mean, obviously, Randy will be dialing me first thing tomorrow morning, what's the next step, so. He may or, he's like, just let it fall apart. I'm like, I don't want my boathouse to fall apart. And that was just a flippant part of it. It's not really where he's at, but I mean, there's a balance, right? To
Well, necessarily.
you all or, ideally is, and that's why we threw the concrete block in. Cause we gotta keep the boats moving.
Yep.
And they seem to be holding even of themselves, so. That whole footing, 5x5 by.
Oh, yeah,
Yanked it right in.
That was in the summer.
that big derecho or tornado or whatever.
Yeah, what was, it was in July? Was it?
Yeah.
It was July?
It was, or was it the one right at Memorial Day? Or Labor Day, whichever one's the beginning of the summer, I can never remember.
Memorial.
Memorial Day.
Heavy wind blew one big tree down. and
Yeah.
It was just a.
That was Memorial Day.
Oh, yeah, that huge tree.
Yeah. All right, any other questions for me or any?
That's all I got.
Thanks.
I know they were hoping to just say it.
I don't think we were expecting that,
Okay.
and it's certainly, it's a good process.
Del, you got anything else?
Nope, that was it.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dave.
Need something, Paul?
Oh, yeah. Don't skate on the lake. Although the ice is getting thick enough, you guys could approve down at the wee one to skate. It's definitely big enough.
Get out.
Oh, that's plenty. Put a truck on that.
Good night, guys.
Good night, thank you. It's late, but apparently we're supposed to approve minutes. What minutes do we have to approve?
September 25th, 2024.
Okay. I don't know. No, I think we have, don't we have, is that the last meeting?
Yes.
You sent out the draft. Did
Yes.
comments back from anybody?
No.
Does everybody remember reviewing the minutes?
I remember reviewing, I don't remember the actual minute.
Did you have any comments back then?
No, I did not.
You can't vote. Yeah, you gotta abstain. Well, there's three of us who are there, right? So we gotta, okay. So can I have a motion to approve the minutes of September, the last meeting?
I approve.
We have to.
Second.
Okay, good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, they're approved.
Okay.
Good. And then, as usual, when we get done here tonight, if you can, we have to publish something within 2 weeks, but it can be the draft. So if you can get the draft out to everyone, just so they can make comments if necessary, and then we can publish the draft until we have a chance to meet again.
Sounds good.
And as we stated previously, if you do have comments, send them directly to Desiree.
me.
Don't copy everyone
Yep.
so that it doesn't appear that we're discussing them.
Yep.
We can have a conversation about email and sunshine laws real quick when we get done here if you have questions. Does anybody have any other business? Cal, you got anything? Okay, did we do it? Did we get it right?
Yep.
Okay, good. In that case, I move we adjourn. 8:50. Second, at 8:50.
Well, everybody have a good night and
Yes.
You
get home
too.
safe and stay warm.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.